Get ready for 5 minutes packed with facts about leaders and businesses shaping our communities. Welcome to 5 Minutes with Daniel Coburn. Today, I'm joined by Michael Hebb from Life Over Dinner. At Life Over Dinner, they are working to shift culture through the use of thoughtful food and discourse to help people connect over topics we often avoid. And thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today.
Oh, thrilled to be here, Daniel.
So with Life Over Dinner, who are you trying to reach?
Well, I think broadly what we like to say, or what I like to say, is that civilization is our client. We have focused on the fact that we're suffering from a pandemic of loneliness. And we are really seeing that the social connection that we really used to have in our society is fraying. We don't connect in person anywhere near as much as we used to, and we're forgetting how. And we believe that the best and most effective way to deeply connect with people is to talk about the things we often avoid. And so our initiatives have been focused on some of the difficult topics, as you mentioned, some of the taboo areas, like end of life. Our principal initiative, Death Over Dinner, launched about 12 years ago to launch or to create a global conversation about end of life grief, end of life planning, but also the incredible vitality that comes from talking about our relationship to our own mortality. And that project has become a global phenomenon. We've convened over 2 million people through our model since we launched. I wrote a book about it called Let's Have Dinner and Talk About Death, or Let's Talk About Death Over Dinner. It's the title of the book. And the initiative gives people the invitation and permission to have these conversations, and then the tools and dinner scripts so they can sit down with friends, family, coworkers, strangers in many cases, and talk about terminal diagnosis, loss, end of life planning, and just, that bigger relationship to our own mortality. And we've also focused on topics like addiction, psychedelic medicine, mental health, and we have a large project that's going right now called Generations Over Dinner that is really looking at the fact that we don't intergenerationally connect anymore. And that is something we really need to face these very difficult times and to create a future that we want to live in.
Right. And with that, you have a very unique message and, just overall idea of helping people with that connection. How are you finding it difficult? What about getting your message out? How are you getting your message out about what you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When my background's in architecture and also social activism and art. And I've always had a lot of ideas about how I would like to see the world shift, how I'd like to connect people more deeply, how I think that it's important for people to be able to really express their authentic selves and build community around that. And I looked at different ways of broadcasting that message. Do I want to create documentaries? Do I want to write books? Do I want to give TED Talks? Do I want to, or use the stage, or do I want to work with businesses? And where I landed was that the dinner table is this incredible, part of the human experience that in many ways is kind of our first architecture and our kind of the first internet. Coming together to share food and share conversation is an essential part of being human and always has been. So it occurred to me that if I could use the dinner table as our broadcast model, as our distribution model, as our scale model, instead of film, TV, books, talks, white papers, businesses even, that would be a really powerful way to reach people across the world. The challenges with the model is that there are not that many people working in our field using the dinner table as a change agent. And so really the challenges are getting society at large to realize the potential of the dinner table and that model to give people a really powerful experience that can create deep, lifelong connections, but also can change behavior.
Right. With our time running short, last question is just briefly, what is a message that you would give your best friend about the topics that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I think that we often think that it's best to avoid hard topics in our lives. It's certainly tricky to talk about politics right now, but when we actually talk about our relationship to grief, loss, past trauma, heartbreak, that's the magic stuff. That's what actually connects us most quickly, most effectively, most deeply to other human beings. So my invitation to my best friends, and they hear this all the time, is to actually go there, to create the space and time and intention to talk about the hardest stuff, because it is the most fulfilling.
Right. And thank you so much. I think of all the people I've talked to, this is just one of the more unique and interesting ways of doing things. And it is certainly not the easiest thing for people to sit down and have a talk about it. Like you and I spoke before the show, is I remember having some of these tough conversations when we found out my father had terminal cancer back in the 90s. But really, thank you so much for joining us. And before we do go, can you let the folks know how they get a hold of you, website, social media, and then when they get there, how do they connect with you, or what do they need to do in order to, take part in what you guys are working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So lifeoverdinner.com has a bunch of resources and models for dinners that you could have, and on a variety of topics. It's all there. It's available. It's free. And people can also find us on Instagram at lifeoverdinner. And we're pretty responsive over Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn, and would love to hear from people.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And definitely, please take the time, check out what Michael and them are doing over there. They do have a tremendous amount of resources. And unfortunately, our society's moved away from being social because of social media. And we do need to take the time to reconnect. And the fruits of that labor will never be wasted. But thank you, everybody, for joining us, especially you, Michael. I appreciate your time today.